We're on. The December 10th, 2014 Park and Rec.Commission meeting is called in order. We do the pledge. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I guess everybody turn off their cell phone, please. I did mine. Everybody okay? Roll call.
Let the record show that all of the commissioners and chairmen are present.
Okay, let's see. We have a couple appointments and ceremonies. I guess the first one's what? Presentation of the Coach of the Year, Dave?
Josh will be making that presentation.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Perfect. All right, thank you for having me. Josh Oakes, Recreation Coordinator here at City of Post Falls. And today I want to do a presentation for the Coach of the Year. Got my notes here. Post Falls Parks and Recreation Youth Sports Coach of the Year Award honors the commitment, enthusiasm, and accomplishments of an outstanding youth sports coach, a coach who treats players fairly, provides a safe and fun learning environment, leads by example, and demonstrates fair play and positive sportsmanship. I am pleased to announce this year's Coach of the Year Award to not only one coach, but two, the father-daughter duo of Randy Chandler and Randy Murray Stevens. Randy and Randy are youth sports coaches who truly understand youth sports and what it's all about. Randy and Randy started coaching for the Post Falls Parks and Rec Department over 4 years ago. Whether it's been soccer, basketball, baseball, or flag football, and I might have missed one. Was there anything else in there? No volleyball? Okay. Randy and Randy are always willing to volunteer their time and even help us get a donation for our teams for sponsors, so they help out a lot. They focus on fun and fundamentals that the youth sports offers. Coaches like Randy and Randy are what make our league so successful. They help kids enjoy sports and make them want to continue playing sports. Their commitment to providing positive, fun youth sports experiences for youth is inspiring, and I am very grateful that they have supported us throughout the year. So could Randy and Randy, would you please join me? I would like to give both of you one of these plaques. So that one's yours. And also, on top of that, we have put your names, for everyone to see, on this plaque that sits inside the Park and Rec office. So you can come and show your names off to people if they don't believe you. So thank you very much.
They can't leave. Hold up your plaque.
Okay, she wants to take a picture, photo. Thank you. Is there anything you guys would like to say at all?
You didn't hand it over. Is it on? I just want to say thank you so much for allowing us to be a part of this team, because without you, we couldn't do it. And without Financial Strategies, our consistent sponsor throughout all these years, it's been a fun experience, and we look forward to the years to come. So we got a 3-year-old coming up in the ranks, so I don't think we're going anywhere anytime soon. Thanks a lot.
Nice.
I just wanted to say thank you to Josh. It's been fun. It's the kids are the reward of this, and the reason we do it obviously is for the kids. I just want to say thank you to Post Falls for supporting it. So thank you.
So actually at this time we have a fun ceremony for you guys out in the Park and Rec office, so we're going to excuse ourselves. So hope you guys have a fun evening.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
You have every right to be proud. Let's see. We have one more. Dave, you're going to do the next one?
Good evening. I thought I'd come here because we're going to line up this entire area in front of you, but as you're aware, we have had a lot of turnover within our department, going from very stable to a little bit of a change. In the last year and a half, we've had 13 positions turnover. Out of 18, that's a lot. But right now, in the last 11 months, we're not going to a year, we're going 11 months. We've got 9 new staff members. So with that, we want you to have, in our audience, to have a face to go with the name, and find out a little bit about what they do and stuff. So first of all, I'm going to introduce our new park manager. Brian Meyer's going to have him come up, stand right there. So Brian actually was with us as a park worker, senior park worker, left to go to the Silver Valley, work there in the private industry, and then we were able to get him back here. You've been back with us now 3 months. Probably seems like 5 or 6, but a lot of things come in, a lot of things that were left over to catch up, and but that was part of our reorganization and trying to be a little bit more fluid. But with that, we had some retirements, we had people move on to other positions, a little bit of everything. So I can tell you, for the first time in over 2 years, we're at full staff this week. So yeah, it's kind of nice. I'm going to go ahead and have you come back here. You're going to introduce yourself. I'm going to have Mitzi come forward first and introduce our newest person. Oh, no. Mitzi is our recreation manager. So we now have 2 managers, one for each division. And since the recreation has the newest person who's been here for
2 days.
3 days?
3 days.
We're on the 3rd day.
She survived 3 days.
So I'm going to let you do a quick introduction, then we'll have the staff just line up in the...
Okay. As you know, we had a recreation coordinator leave, and so we brought on our new recreation coordinator, which is Rachel Lane. If you want to come up here and smile big and pretty. She actually is another vandal. She comes to us, so now Dave is surrounded by vandals, and then I'm right next to him, so I'm actually a wildcat, so at least he has 2 cat family people there. But she's graduated from the U of I last December, and she's worked with Boise Park and Rec, Meridian Park and Rec, the YMCA down there. So she basically will be doing a lot of the youth sports and some of the adult sports programs, and then kind of helping with some tournaments and developing some of those kind of special events for us as well in the sports arena. And so you'll see her smiling face a lot. And she's a transplant from Boise. So she's definitely learning the area. It's a little colder here than what she's used to. And she's, hopefully will enjoy our ski areas because she loves to play in the snow and all that kind of stuff. Do you have anything you want to add? Go Vandals, that's right. We kind of had her freaked out that she had to kind of like give this whole, spiel and all this. And she felt bad, so I was like, all right. So with that, I'd like to welcome Rachel.
Rachel, you get to stay up there. Do you need my list of all your people, or will you remember?
I had to refresh myself on it, but I think we've got it. So we'll start out with our new urban forester, Preston Hill. Preston was hired as the urban forester in July of 2014. He's been in that role now for a little while, and previously he was a full-time park worker for the Parks Department, so shifted into that new role. He was also, just prior to becoming a full-time park worker, he was the urban forestry assistant for Brendan. So he's got 15 years of experience in the green industry, landscape construction in Ohio, and moved to Coeur d'Alene area 10 years ago. And at that time, came introduced into the arboriculture industry and worked as a tree climber. And he's a certified arborist, qualified tree risk assessor, and a tree climber. Recently, he was granted a $2,000 scholarship through the Idaho Department of Lands to attend the Municipal Forestry Institute course in Silverton, Oregon. So he'll be attending that this spring. Should be great experience and knowledge there. Lives in Coeur d'Alene with his wife and 4 young children. So, and then Nina, his assistant, Nina Eckberg. Look out! Nina was hired in April as the urban forestry assistant. She assists in maintaining all public trees, parks, and within the right-of-way. She has a degree in horticulture and brings to the city experience in landscaping, noxious weed control, and educational outreach. She'll be sitting for a certified arborist exam here in the very near future. So I'm confident she'll do well in that. So, she's also an elected supervisor on the Kootenai-Shoshone Soil and Water Conservation District Board and is a seedling program manager for the Idaho Forest Owners Association. So, wealth of knowledge there to add to the team. So, our most recent hire in the park side is Michael Zimmerman. He was hired as our parks construction supervisor in November. He'll attempt to fill the vacated role by the retiring Deb Frank. So he will be instrumental in the role of completing capital park improvements and large renovation projects in the parks. He comes to us with 27 years of commercial construction background. He served in the Marine Corps just out of high school, and following that time in service to the country, he went to school, electronics school, working as a carpenter to get himself through school. Moved to Northern Idaho in 1994, assisted with the construction of the overlook platforms in Falls Park as a volunteer. Shortly after that, worked as a seasonal park worker for 2 seasons, and then went off to start his own construction company. Did that until 2004, and then worked for 2 local Hayden-based construction companies doing project management, and most recently as an estimator for Viking Construction. His assistant, Randy Clutter, filled a vacant position that was vacant since the summer of 2013. So he came to us in January and has already played a very large role in the continued development of parks assets and including the new deck at the Trailhead facility, installing interpretive signs at Falls, and his wealth of skills and carpentry makes him perfect for the job, and we're glad to have him as a part of the team. So, next, Derek, come on up. So Derek joined our team in April. He filled the role that I had vacated when I left last October to pursue some other opportunities, and his role, he'll be active in the maintenance of our parks in our downtown corridor, City Hall campus, the Arboretums, the Police Department, Treaty Rock, Falls Park, and the new Spokane Street corridor. Previously, Derek was the irrigation manager for Environment West, and he designed commercial and residential irrigation systems and managed a installation crew there. A wealth of knowledge in both irrigation and plumbing. It's great to have him on the team there. So he worked for the City of Coeur d'Alene Parks for 4 years as their irrigation tech, and he's very proud of his role in the design and installation of their dog park. And so lives in Coeur d'Alene with his wife and 2 children. And our most recent park maintenance worker, Mike Wood. So he backfills in the position that Preston vacated as he moved into the urban forester's position. So, and there was one other position in between, one other person in that role for a short time in between there. But Mike will be active in the maintenance operations for our south and east side of parks, including Camelin Park, Kiwanis Park, Black Bay, Community Garden, and Centennial Trail and the Karen Streeter Greenway. Mike has a Bachelor's of Science from the University of Idaho in Park Management. Previous work experience includes working at Hell's Gate State Park and Dorshak State Park. And he served as a Parks Commissioner in Montgomery County, Virginia, prior to coming to us here. And he lives in Coeur d'Alene with his wife and 2 children. So, and finally, I think that we're up to Heather. The last person for the evening for Parks. So Heather became the Parks Division Administrative Specialist this past summer. She previously worked part-time at the recreation desk as an assistant to Penny. And she lives here in Post Falls with her family, and is a joy to have manning the desk over there at the park side. So she's the glue that keeps us all together over there. So there's 90% of our park staff. A couple other faces. Our maintenance supervisor has been with us for 10 years and coming up on 10 years.
Yes.
And then Jason and Anthony are our other 2 full-time park workers. So.
Well, you know, I can't, let it go without saying something. It's just this habit I have. But, when you have this kind of turnover, it's scary. The institutional knowledge that goes away, the people that how they're going to deal with things, there's a comfort level there. And I'll have to say, I will miss those people tremendously. They were great people. They were good friends. But I look at this group, and if you look at it, we have a wide range of experience levels here, knowledge base, and I think people will compliment each other. That's one of the things we looked at is how we bring this together. But one thing that's key is you look at a lot of them, they're connected. I know a lot of faces here are familiar to people around the community because they've been connected, and that's critical. That's what our job is. We need to be connected to the community. So I'm excited about the people we have on staff, and yes, they'll become good friends too. And I'm excited because it's been a long struggle the last couple years, and staff has done a fabulous job. And some of you that are here that I know with Randy, with being here the year, and Preston and stuff, that they helped us get through a lot of this stuff. Sometimes doing double and triple duty, same on the recreation side. But we have a really good staff, and I'm happy to have all of you on board. So this is your... That's half of our entire staff right here.
I was probably most impressed that Dave didn't go out and just pick somebody. There was positions opening until he had the right applicant for months. And I think we have them people on board now, so thank you. Anything else, Dave? Okay, next item's the amendments to the agenda. Commissioners have any amendments? Staff? Dave? Any? Okay, we'll move on to conflicts. Anybody have a declaration of conflict tonight? Nobody works for Tullamore or any of the other agendas? Okay. We'll go back to the consent calendar. We approve the minutes. Penny?
I move to approve the minutes from October 28, 2014 as presented.
I'll second. All right, the roll call vote. Davis?
Aye.
Gurley?
Aye.
Martinez?
Aye.
Nordum?
Aye.
Hale?
Aye.
Hodel?
Aye.
Aye. Done. We'll move on to unfinished or old business. We have any public comments now on any of the old business? Okay, we'll go next back to the Tullamore Park. Dave?
Good evening again. This process is a little different than we normally do simply because of the time of year. But normally we'd run a a meeting in the community. We'd put at the site a tent up. We'd run a community outreach system in there, and then we'd come back and hold here, and that's how we develop the parks. Weather isn't quite that nice right now, nor is it light there, so we're doing a little bit different this year. But one of the things that we are working on is working with the developer, Copper Basin, and work on a new design for Tullamore City Park. So I'm going to go over a little bit of the history. We have Susan Moss here who will be able to answer some of the things, so I guess we haven't practiced this, but we'll tag team on a little bit of this and be available for answering questions. Once that's done in the process, then we'll open it up for public comments. If there's anybody in the audience that wishes to speak, we do have the comment forms there. You'll need to fill that out and then get that to the clerk and then come up and speak. So just get started with this, of course. And I'm going to go over some of this stuff. I know you understand it, but some people in the television audience may not understand the history and stuff on it. But with Tullamore, we, as a commission and as a staff, had worked with the developer to create a park design. That park design was actually approved and by the commission and then approved by city council, and that became part of that development agreement. Since that time, the market's changed, and that developer is no longer in the picture. It went back to the bank. So we had a bankruptcy that we had to deal with. There is a current developer who has an option on the property, is working on some of that stuff. Part of that is working out changes in the PUD, which city council granted, but also coming up with an agreement for a new park design. And if we cannot come to an agreement for a new park design, the old design stays in force. It has been indicated to us if we can't find that compromise or that middle ground for this design, because the other one is just doesn't pencil out, that the project won't go forward and the bank will be looking for a developer, whether that happens or not. But that's kind of the jux of what we're at, and we realize we have to make some changes and adjustments. There are some things in there in the design that also obligated the homeowners association to maintenance. Whether they knew it or not, that was part of that thing. And so those are things that we're looking at. The pond is one of those issues. So that's what we're trying to get through, so that we come up with a park that is meets the city's needs in our comprehensive plan and works for the neighborhood. The process is we go through it and we come up with the first draft. First part is actually a bubble diagram that tells us where can we build and where can't we build. The green areas actually have the proper soil content that we could put hardscape on. You can put parking lots, you could put restrooms, playgrounds, anything that isn't going to sink in or we have to excavate to maintain it. The red area is actually a lot of disturbed soils, and that really becomes simply open space landscaping. So those are some of the constraints we had to work with. We also had to work with a little bit of adjustment on the layout or the footprint of the park. You have road changes, you have other things in there. First plan came up with 3 different master plan drafts. So this is first draft, first one. Park and Rec Commission looked at it. They saw things they liked, things they didn't like, so we kind of went back and forth. The pictures on the side were possibilities of different types of amenities. So that's a later phase, but right now we're doing an overall view. We have playgrounds placed here, we have a splash pad, we have amphitheater, parking, restrooms. Those are the things we're working on, and then we work on the details of the actual amenity. So there was 3 styles, and Susan, correct me anytime that I misspeak on this, since you're the designer of these, but the first one, actually go back, Park and Rec Commission staff, everybody really liked the northern part, which, so television audience can see it, if I can, there, is up in here, how the amphitheater went in, how you had parking there, a picnic shelter. That was just, it seemed to flow. But the pathways and how everything was pushed, the fact you have a lift station there, that was a big concern. Oops, wrong direction, let's go again. One of the other ways they looked at was moving the parking lot around it, separate a little bit more, and the pathways had a little bit more connectivity, but the amphitheater just didn't quite flow there. Same thing, just a little bit different. You had the parking lot on the other side. Trails worked pretty good. Amphitheater wasn't quite the same, a little tight in there, but so looked at all those things. From that, there were a number of comments that brought out, and this is just a small sample of what we sent back to the developer, but Commission wanted to see connectivity of the trails in the park so that you had a loop so that people could do the walking around it. Pretty much unanimous, people liked that northern section in example 1 with the bandstand, the picnic shelter, everything up there. I think talked a little bit back and forth about putting maybe a basketball court there or a pickleball court or something active up with it, but the big thing was having a picnic shelter, just the way that amphitheater worked, that was good. Commission members and staff liked having the parking lot going around the lift station and giving us a little bit of a separation from a splash pad, from playground, from everything. Just, I know I'm told that they don't smell, but you know, every now and then they do. And we're the ones who are going to hear about that. So we need to look at how can we do those separations. It was pretty unanimous. They wanted to see 2 pickleball courts together, not a single one. Asked for consideration to even 2 basketball courts instead of 1. And a big push was that the splash pad needed to be larger. I think 50 by 50 was set as a minimum. So those comments and many more were passed on. Comments came from Parks&Rec.Commission and from staff. So we have second draft in here, and I wish I could enlarge it a little bit, but your same features are in here of having the amphitheater, and then some of the things changed in there. And I may have Susan come up and explain a little bit about thought process, but you had water pads in there. I think pushed pickleball up into this area, thinking it would tie in with the picnic shelter a little bit better. The pathways actually connected to the sidewalk, so you had that connectivity around that way. So this is one concept. The next concept is slightly different from that. Still wraps around, but it pushes your, there it is, your playground and your splash pads a little further apart. I think that's the basketball court pushed up there, maybe not, but still, once again, connectivity, but pushing out a little further and using that as your connectivity. This is more open. I know one thing in here, okay, I have to look there. There was talk about creating some type of an elevated space, whether it was with a lot of excess dirt and the rocks, whatever. So in this one, it was put towards the corner in there, and if you had sign there, it'd be a backing. The one before that, it was pushed out towards the amphitheater in this area. So that's an issue too, is Commission asked to see what it would be like, how it would work, and you know, if we still want to have that, we have to work out details so that they can maintain it, that it meets some of the safety issues that we're concerned about, but also staff is able to maintain it. Is there anything, Susan, that you would like to talk about on the design of the two, or things that you tried to accomplish?
Let's see, this, I don't know what I'm doing here. Oh, okay. So, okay, so this area is kind of all the active play together, except for, we do have an area, well, the, let's see, the mulched area that the kids play in will have a curb between, plus a hardscape around past that, and then would go into the splash pad, so that there is an area between that the mulch wouldn't go into the splash pad. So we're keeping everything together, yet far enough apart. So if the kids and families want to go to that area, they can. It was kind of a concept that I got from, you probably saw there was a little class on splash pads and play areas. So that's where that one came from. And the next, can help me get and the next concept, basically I wanted to keep this area open because we didn't want to put any of the children, families behind this lift station. So that's why this is a little open here, and keeping the play areas, you know, along this path here. So that's basically it. I did only put in one basketball court, and so we can add a second one if that's really what everyone wanted. And putting up the pickleball up here, just, you know, keeping, what we did was we have less parking up here, but more parking down below, where more of the active play is. So, and this amphitheater is about the same on both, since we like that. And the large picnic shelters in both too.
Pickleball was 2 court.
I have 2 courts on both, right. Any other questions? That?
Okay. Yeah, I wish I can't read what it says up there.
Right behind
I don't
you.
think even better glasses would help me at all. Yeah, it's just blurry for me. But I do know that one of the things that doesn't show up, so people in the audience know too, around the lift station will be screened. That was one of the things Steve talked about heavily, that he wanted to put screening around it so that it's not seen there. Trees would be a larger size tree, and we'd put a mix in there. We'll work with our urban forestry division on that. Pathways are fairly big and fairly wide. This main one will accommodate our maintenance truck so it can get up there and we can load for any type of event that's up there, and allows, for that. Really what we're looking at right now are, from the public feedback, is do they like the idea of 1 or 2 courts? Is there a feature that they would like to see in there that's not in there? Some of the ranking of the items there. Are there things that we overlooked? You know, that type of thing. And from there, we go back and design it. The next process in here is we'll collect comments for the next 3 weeks. You'll have some tonight. This is also now on the city website. We have the form in a Survey Monkey form, so people in the audience can go in and they can give us their comment back. So we're extending that through December. So we'll have that time. So we'll collect all that. That stuff will all be brought back. We'll have more meetings with Commission and with Susan and Steve, and we'll finalize it from there. So we're going to nail down a master plan from that. After that, the master plan design is done, we'll finalize some of the design details. From there, it'll come back to you, the Park and Rec Commission, for your approval. If you do approve it, then it will go to City Council for their approval. If you don't approve it, then we'll go back to the drawing board and we'll work on more adjustments until we find a product that you're comfortable with. When it goes to the City Council for their approval, then of course we'll see if they approve it, then we move on from there, and that starts the process of the construction documents. After that's done, then we begin construction. One of the reasons why our parks are approved by the City Council is it gives us, per Idaho law, some liability protection. So all park plans are always approved. The designs are approved. You know, the big thing is when you get this master plan, you're looking at flow, you're looking at how things lay out. Once we get that, then the detail, we don't worry too much about detail right now on the master plan. And when I talk about detail, that's will there be rock work around the picnic shelter? Or is the playground going to be a rope playground, or is it going to be a traditional hardscape, or is it going to be all individual items? Those are things that we work out, and it all blends together, so.
Hey, Dave, I hope this
Yes.
isn't too much into detail, and I know Steve's not here, but I kind of want to add or make a point. I've seen where like the splash pads could be like interchangeable, where if we had one type in one park, some features, we could mix it up with something in another park. I'd like to see that
Okay.
here, if possible.
Yeah, and that's a good thing. Some of the departments are doing that, where they'll have the same brand or manufacturer. So let's say we have one at Tullamore, we have one up at White Pine, maybe one's out at Syringa, and they're all smaller. So, you know, we just don't have that luxury of putting in a giant one, but it's all the same stuff, and those are removable units. So mid-season, we can pull one piece out, put it into the other one, and they're interchangeable. So it brings a little excitement, a little creativity to it. So that's a good point. Thank you. Any other questions, thoughts, comments by the commission?
We're still controlled by the size of the tank for storage, but would we have connections we wouldn't use maybe when we first develop it, we could add to later? Susan?
Teach you to take that webinar.
I did. I hope you took it. It depends on what the brand that you're using and how much money you want to put in on the splash pad. And I believe there was a budget that Steve came up with, excluding the splash pad. So it's kind of, you know, we're kind of still working on what is really, what this area really needs and can afford.
Thank you.
Yes, to expand on that, you're correct. The tank is a big issue. I think Howard can vouch for this, that the amount of water it goes through, and I was just doing some simple calculations, and it gets a little scary. At the National Recreation and Park Association conference this last year, I went to actually several sessions on the water pads, the splash pads, spray parks, that type of thing. And they've been doing a little bit of study, and contrary to what we were told just a couple years ago about taking the water and not recycling it, the figures are coming back that it's cheaper to recycle it, even with operational costs, because of how much water they're generating. Once again, you can control some of that by your spray heads, the type of features you have, the size of your park, how much your water needs are, but it all has to be calculated in, and that's one of those little details. And maybe it's not such a little detail, but it is a detail that has to be worked out, because if we put it into our irrigation system, we have to make sure that we're able to match out the needs. Or if it can't match out, what do we do with the excess? We do have some agreements with for water conservation that we have to follow. So, but those are things we'll look at, and it may pencil out for us too, because of the size and everything else, that it's cheaper in the long run to have a unit that will recycle the water and clean it. Other thoughts, questions, comments? Okay, as I said, if you go to the city's website, if you have a pop-up blocker, allow this pop-up to come up. It's SurveyMonkey. It's on our recreation site too. We'll be putting connections to it. You can also, for some reason it doesn't show up, you can go on the website and pull it up. But this will run you through a quick survey that will ask you questions for feedback on that. And that will all be compiled, and then it will go back to Susan and myself and you folks, and we'll go from there. So,
Anybody that wants to make a public comment, you have to have a completed public comment form. Basically, if there's somebody that wants, holler, I have some here.
and we can go into that phase of it. If you wish to comment, you have 5 minutes. Just state your name. You don't need to state your address, but just your name, and then any of your comments related to this, and we'll go from there. I'll pull that back for.
Is there anyone with public comment? We have one. You want to read that, Jim?
Yeah, sure. We've got Pete Faust. It's the first name, so if you want to come on up, I guess, and state your first and last name and.
My name is Peter Faust. I live at 3113 Duro Loop in Post Falls, which is up in the Tullamore area. I'll speak for all of us. Basically, just some quick comments. I've actually already commented online pretty extensively. We are in favor of this park. There are a couple things that we would like to see. I just had a question, which probably maybe not be appropriate for now, but maybe take up with the city. So far as screening the lift station, could the fence facing the street, so the southern fence, maybe be pushed back 5 feet into the lift station property, so a row of arborvitae or whatever maybe put along the street side to help screen that portion of it as well. And then there have been other folks in the community that are looking for some sort of a dog run or a dog park incorporated in the plan. Otherwise, well, the three of us who represent ourselves plus the HOA, we're president, vice president, and treasurer of the HOA. We are in favor of this park. We thank you. I know I misspoke here several months ago, but nice to be back, and thank you for saving our park. You know, we're really looking at seeing something that wasn't very popular, and it's nice to see something that, you know, it doesn't have all the details anyone wants, but it probably never would have. But at least we have our open space, we have our park, and we truly thank you for that. So, thank you.
Is there anyone else? Okay, we'll move on.
Were we able to address the question about the screening and putting the fence back?
Well, what we'll do is we'll push that comment back to wastewater, or water reclamation, sorry. And that really is out of our hands, but we can put that suggestion to them, and we'll, either way, we'll let you know what we find out. Right. And we actually have to work with them on the screening that we do too. So whatever type we end up doing, or we have to meet what their needs, their requirements are, and then we have to try and fit it in with ours also. But we'll look at that. So that's all I can tell you at this point. Is the most I can do is bring it forward to that division. Okay. Any other questions you might have or thoughts? And yes, you folks can also, if you want, take the SurveyMonkey deal, go online and do that. And then give us feedback of how good it was to use or things we could do, because I think we'd like to see more of that in some of our operations.
That was just posted today, wasn't it, for comments?
Today, yes.
Yeah, so it'll take a while.
Okay. Then if there's no further comments, no one else to come up and speak, we'll close the public comment section for this and send them my report. Anything you would like to add, Susan?
You're not biting your toenails, you're not biting your fingernails, Tammy. You've been waiting how many years?
Sharon and I both. Long time. Long time. Long time.
Okay.
Okay.
Next item on our agenda is citizen issues. Anybody have a citizen issue? New business. Any new business, commissioners? Anyone else? We'll move on. Staff report. Dave Fair, the director.
You know, it seems like ages since I was up here before you guys. It's just been too long. Decided to try something different. We actually did this with our department meeting today, and you guys will see part of it, not all of it. But, you know, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, so I'm going to give you a very long dissertation here. But with all that turnover and everything else, we had a good year. It was a year of challenges, a year of definite change. We had a lot of successes, and there was opportunity. I'll get back to opportunity later, but you know, that's a typical year, I guess. Maybe the change isn't so typical, but we have a staff that responded very well. One of the things that's nice about this profession, and you know, we're so unique in many ways. From how we run is not how Coeur d'Alene runs, or how Rathdrum runs, or how Spokane Valley runs. But we have a basis in there. But one of the bases that we all seem to have is, and it doesn't matter what agency I've worked for, county, cities, it's, well, God, who's going to deal with that? Who's going to take care of it? Oh, Parks and Recreation. Hands down, it happens every time. So we do find a lot of challenges, but it gives us opportunity. You know, one of the challenges, I'm not going to hammer home, but staffing. We had turnover. With turnover, we have the hiring process. Part of that process is doing position reviews. In this time, we had enough coming up, and we adjusted some. We held off on a few so we could make a reorganization that we had been wanting to do for quite a few years. And we just didn't have the money. We weren't able to do it. Because of the sheer volume, we were able to make those changes. And I think it will get us miles ahead of where we were. But the hiring process is a long one. If you have people that have retired, they have some vacation time and stuff that we have to pay out. We have things there, so we can't just go and hire most people the next day. We have to actually run through our budget. When we have our money back, then we get to go out. That caused limited staff, so we were in a kind of a survival mode this summer, and it's limited budgets. We had a lot of things we had to recover from. Thank you, gentlemen. Reorganization, just real quickly, this is kind of how we look now. Yeah, I know you've seen it before, but television audience maybe hasn't. But our park division has urban forestry, maintenance, and construction under it. This allows some flexibility so that if we have projects, we can push manpower around a little bit more. On the recreation side, it's all our special events, all our classes, going out and some of the fundraising, all of that goes into that. The one thing I did keep was the cemetery division reporting directly to me. And the reason I did that is because we're going through a lot of change on the cemetery right now with our expansion. And there's a lot of development in that. It will, you know, trickle down, maybe sometimes really flow down fast to the park side of it. We'll utilize our staff where we can, but had a lot of that. And of course, even in with our commission, we had the change where we put urban forestry as a committee, a subcommittee under you folks. And a lot of this is, as we looked at it, was how to streamline, how to be more efficient, more responsive. And I think we were very successful in that. Does it mean that it's all going to be perfect? No, as I told staff, there will still be some quirks and some bugs, and we'll have to make some adjustments as we go on, but I think we're definitely in the right direction. We have had a lot of successes, from very simple ones to bigger ones. We actually were able to buy a new used bus this year that was newer, in great condition. We sent out one of our older buses that we were having a lot of breakdowns with. We got our small bus that we bought from the Air Force a number of years back. We had the transmission rebuilt so that it could actually go freeway speeds, and just really brought it forward in that. So those are little successes, but you know they have a big impact. The programs use it a lot, and it helps us. You know, we have our basic programs. These are our base, and I've always pushed that 80% of our programs should not change from year to year. You have 20% you change, because people need that foundation. And you can make minor changes in it, but you have to have something that you can count on. Soccer's one of those, and it runs for all ages. And it has little ups and downs, but that's just the process. And, you know, having been a coach several times over, dealing with soccer, and all my kids going through the program, it's near and dear to my heart. We have other standbys. Our memorial service at the cemetery every year. If you haven't been to it, you should go, whether it's ours or one of the neighboring cities or neighboring cemeteries. To see the number of flags that are out there on Memorial Day is phenomenal. It has an impact. Some of our special events, fishing derby, always popular. I'm glad we built a bridge that you can drive on because it can hold all the people. We run stuff from all ages, from adults, we run sports, we run educational, we run for the kids. There's all kinds of things. And it's part of that philosophy is not everyone wants to know how to play the guitar or wants to go play basketball or paint, whatever. So you have to have a wide variety because that's our community. Then you have to have your signature events. The tree giveaway. It is probably some of the best publicity that we get. If you look at the community, having come here a few years ago, I can remember when Montrose really had no trees and Singing Hills had no trees and Harmony Place. And through the tree giveaway, you go through there now and there's trees. It just changes your community. Opportunities. Whether it's opportunity or partnership, a little bit of both, but we had Trex donate a lot of decking material to us. Badger Building worked with them, got the connection for us. They were patient with us as we were going through the staff changes, but this year we finally got the big deck and it doubled the space that's available for rentals on the trailhead shelter. So it's an opportunity, but it's also a partnership. Partnerships don't just include outside with other agencies and community, but also internally with the police department or other departments. We have to work hand in hand, and it's what helps our community as a whole. We had a number of new events. This probably is one of our most popular new events that came forward. It's Brews and Shoes. So a real low-key race and walk. That was this fall, and a number of our microbreweries in town helped sponsor it, and it was very popular. And we've had a lot of places asking, tell us how to do it. Tell us where you got this. Tell us what. So it's one of those ones we need to box up as an event and market it. Staff did a great job with that. Another one was Zombie Camp. Very popular, went real well. I think tired out staff more than the kids, but it was one of those things that I heard people talking about in the community. And when you hear people talking about it, you know you did something right. We revamped our duathlon to a triathlon. A little bit of a challenge. We had to move it later into the year so we were sure we actually had water. That helps. We had just under 100 participants, which was low, but we got good feedback. We've had other running groups come in, say they want to get involved with it and help us with it next year and get it marketed. So I think it's one of those things that helps the whole community as you get these races. It's not probably the top level, but it gives that range in there. As I said, we were limited this staff. This is our full-time crew that was here this summer to keep things running. So they did a great job. Everybody pitched in and took extra duty, so we appreciate that. Another success were the signs at Falls Park. We hear a lot about it. They just came out well. They kept a lot of the history, a lot of the heritage that was there, but they brought it up to a modern look and added a lot of appeal to it. We're continuing to do work at Falls Park, as you guys will see shortly. We had some of our buildings and structures that had to be renovated. This is a Hastings house. The one thing when we did the renovation is the roof wasn't done. This summer the crew got in there. We had to do some structural stuff, and then we had the roofing done. So it came out great. We're set there, and let's bring back a little bit of revenue to the department. Tree care. One thing that has been added with our budget is a tall tree climbing program. I'm sure I just butchered it, but that's okay, Preston. I'll hear about it tomorrow. But instead of contracting out for some of these trees, I mean, if you look at this, that's a tall tree, and that's this is treaty rock, and the apartments are there. That's their storage unit. It would cost us a few $1,000s to have that removed. Because we have staff in-house that are certified to do it, they're able to take it down, and it saved the city considerable amounts of money. Just a second. Talking too much. Much better. You can see we planted a lot of bigger trees, but trying to do some things in-house, having the expertise, hiring the right people, getting them the training they need, getting the budgets for equipment, it allows us to be a lot more responsive, a lot more flexible. We did finally get to the roundabout at the end of the season. Once again, we were a short crew. That became a thing on hold, but this fall we went in. We mirrored the one on Syringa without the trees. And the reason why there's no trees in there is that property is crisscrossed with utilities. There's gas line, there's electrical, water, you name it, it's running through there. So we could not put any trees on that. But I think you'll see it'll look good, and people will be very happy with it. And it wasn't just cutting out. We had to have new irrigation systems. So it's like anything, there's a lot of work that goes into it that is all underground. People just don't see it. Wanted to highlight the fact in the cemetery that for every service we do a full service. So besides getting the graves ready and everything else, digging them and getting the liners in and stuff, we have to have you have a tent, you have all the lowering equipment, you bring in the chairs, so everyone, and that's about 90 services a year. So it's time consuming. We've done a lot this year, but things that you have to look forward to the next year, and this is, once again, just a little sample. There's a lot more going on. But Falls Park, we know we still have a lot of work to do. We got the signs up. They look fabulous. We're redoing the fencing right now and the rails. They were pretty beat up. But around the bridge, you can see all the erosion. I don't know if anybody remembers, but that actually had rock on it at one point. Just not big enough. And we had put shrubs in there. We had willow, we had ocean spray, and because of the heavy use, it's been degraded. Well, we'll be bringing the water level down. We also have a problem with the beaver in there, but we'll be bringing the water down, and we'll be rocking it with bigger rocks and anchoring the system. We'll also be putting rocks under the bridge, and that will make it so the beaver doesn't want to live under there and come chew all our trees and all kinds of things. And every now and then, cause a few other problems. The ADA handicap fishing, these pathways will be addressed, the approaches, some of these ramps will be removed because they're just not effective, some will be extended, but those changes will happen. Probably the following year you'll be looking at a upgrade of the playground, but we're doing it piece by piece in a organized fashion. One other thing that's happening is we're working with the Vista to get our permits so that we can extend the pond. You have two ponds there that are almost the same level. Okay, they are the same level. They weren't supposed to be. There's supposed to be a 2-foot difference when we built it. And we built the upper pond first, and it was beautiful. And then we went to dig out the lower pond, and we hit rock. And that was not beautiful because we lost 5 feet of depth that we were supposed to have. So we just had to do the best we could. We sealed it up. We got the pond in. We went with the fountain and aerated it. But we have to permit now to make that upper pond bigger. So Vista's working with us, and we'll get the permits, and we'll, with their help, we'll get actually a pond increased. So that'll happen. What you see right here is the pump track. We did buy that. We got a special deal on it last year because it was at a trade show with the is that Northern Quest, that's at Airway Heights, the casino there. They hosted a national Indian convention there of tribal leaders. And this company actually brought that out there as part of the trade show. So we were able to pick it up at a discount. It hadn't been used on anything but that trade show, and we didn't have to pay for shipping. So it came out real well. It was put up at the skate park. That will probably be incorporated into it, but we'll continue working, trying to get the permit or the contract out there so that we can do a design, build, and finish the second phase of the skate park. The nice thing about that pump track, too, is right now it's taken apart and it's now stored for the winter. Crew won't like it, but we could, in a half a day, take it apart, move it, and put it up somewhere else. So if we had a special event, let's say a park day, we could bring that in, or a portion of it or whatever. So it gives us a little flexibility to be a little creative.
How big is it? You know?
80 by 30, 35, somewhere in there. And you can add pieces to it. Lewiston did go buy one, and theirs is a little bit bigger, but you can add stuff. So it's really flexible. Let's see. That's Tullamore, as it looks right now with all the dirt. So by next year, you'll see construction, hopefully, on it, and we'll be putting in a park. A couple things here. That's Beck Road interchange, and then, of course, Spokane Street. We'll be taking on the maintenance of those this next year. So that's an additional hit on the staff, but both good projects, so that'll be happening. Camelin Park. Okay. One of the things that's happening, if I can get up here, you can't see it, but right in there is a stake that Avista did. They are actually going to be putting a gas line board under the river back up to Spokane Street near the water tower. That's where it has to be staged, so we'll see that disruption either in this early spring or late fall. We'll work with them, having the site restored, but also doing some changes in drainage and getting that improved. We do know that we have our gazebo, our oldest structure, needs to be replaced. We've rebuilt it so many times, but I guess, Rick, for a piece of trivia for your next meeting, if you're Sergeant at Arms, you can ask him where was that shelter at before Camelin Park? And it's Riverside State Park that was pulled out of by Vista. So that one's 70s, late 60s.
I've worked in it 50 times.
Yep. The other thing that, with the South Dam project, we were supposed to actually redo this whole entryway. I lost this there. As a heads up, it looks like they're running behind still, and I'm not sure they will have it done before summer starts next year. So that renovation may or may not happen, but we are looking at the whole ticket-taking process, how we move vehicles in and out, how we secure and protect staff and everything. So that's a project in there. You know, it was a good year. I think next year looks even better, and I'm open for any questions, comments. It's just a sample. Okay, with that, then, I will thank you.
Thank you. So now, okay, we'll move on. Commission comments. Anybody? Okay, we're not going to have an executive session tonight. I don't have a sheet here. Regular session is over. We'll adjourn. I rolled a contact. I couldn't read.